Greatest escape. If you survive the years, you learn how to manage your fate. Overcome. Shift the culture. We gon' shift the culture. We gon' take it over. I'm a God soldier. Yeah, I rock and roll ya. Yeah, I lids up. I don't have step, but I step with pep, and I stamp my rep. Woke 'em up, they slept, slobbering on the pillow. Had a bad dream until I came and healed them. Now the soul's clean, fabuloso. Things ain't what they seem. Now it's hopeful. Shift the culture. 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 Shift the culture.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Shift the Culture, where we are here to have a new voice, new shift, new culture. We appreciate everybody that's been tuning in to all of our earlier episodes. You can check those out on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button as well, too, at Maafa TV. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so anytime we drop any new content, you will be notified. Again, we appreciate everybody for all the support. And, today our show is being sponsored by an amazing organization, an organization that I love, that's dear to my heart, and that is One Change at a Time. One Change at a Time is an intergenerational organization that's focused on bridging the generational gap between the youth and the elderly. And we do that through various educational, recreational, and social programming. An example, we teach young kids how to take care of seniors. And what we do is we develop training curriculum programs, and we actually have youth and adult volunteers as well, too, go into nursing homes and assisted living facilities and do these various educational, recreational, social programs with those seniors in these facilities. So that's an example of what we do. The organization is amazing. The link is in the description. Please visit, please donate to our cause. We are here to help, again, youth and seniors come together and overcome the health disparities that's affecting us all. So today's show is sponsored by One Change at a Time. Now, today is the show's title is called Naughty Head. And Naughty Head is a play off of a song off of a recent album that I dropped, my new album that I love. It's called Growth. You can stream it everywhere. Yes, I'm plugging the album. Gotta plug the album, gotta plug everything I do. Because I think it's amazing work, great work. And one of the songs is called Naughty Head. And the song, I initially wrote the song because I heard of this story over a year ago. And it was the story of Darryl George out of Mount Bellevue, Texas. And to just kind of summarize everything, George attends attends Barbers Hill High School in Mount Bellevue, Texas. And George basically was put in school suspension. He was documented. Well, first he was asked to, cut his hair. And we'll get into some things here in a second. I've pulled up a few things on the school district's website, which is Barbers Hill Independent School District. I'll share some of that in a second. But George, who attends Barbers Hill High School, was asked to, cut his hair. The school has a policy in terms of hair length for males. And he has locks, and his locks went below the earlobe. And the school district, their policy says that you can't have hair, males can't have hair below the earlobes. And so it's interesting because there's a federal law that encompasses the discrimination of hair, and discrimination of people of color from employment, from any federal assistance programs, from educational institutions, so on and so forth. there is law that actually prevents or prohibits the discrimination of those of people of color with long hair, or because of their hairstyles that they wear, because of the texture of our natural hair. And so George was then placed in in-school suspension because he didn't cut his hair, and then eventually was suspended from school for his junior year. This year was his senior year. So last year was his junior year. This year was his senior year. Just to speed everyone up, this year was his senior year, and when school started, George actually went to school for the first day, and he was put in school suspension, and then he was obviously suspended for basically not having his hair below his earlobe. So George has gone to another school district. He's gone to another school district to continue on to finish out his senior year. In the midst of all of that, George has asked a federal judge, and let me see if I have the federal judge, Judge Brown. So he asked the U.S. Judge Jeffrey Brown, to issue a temporary restraining order against the school district, so it will allow him to continue on getting his learning within that school district while this federal case can proceed, and eventually, hopefully there's some form of legal legal resolve to this matter. Judge Brown actually made a decision, and this decision was this decision was made last month, where the lawyers for Mr. Darryl George, Darryl George, the teenager, they basically had asked for the judge to rule in favor in support of the Crown Act, which is a federal act, and I'm going to go through the description of that here in a second, and basically ask, hey, is there this discrimination or this rule that this school district has put in place in terms of hair length, male hair length can't go below the ears, actually is a violation of the Crown Act, and specifically because Darryl George is an African American, it is a violation of the Crown Act, because the Crown Act is specifically focused on the discrimination of people of color, and the school district's rule does not differentiate what color you need to be. It's basically any male. You could be white, Asian, Latino, whatever. Your hair can't go below here. Whereas there's a federal law that says that, wait, people of color have different hair that naturally grows in a certain way, and those institutions who are receiving federal support, federal funding, can't discriminate, can't use the basis of a person's race or hairstyle or whatever the case may be as a premise, can't put rules in place to discriminate against these individuals, in terms of their hair length and things of that nature, because they are receiving federal assistance. And Barbers Hill School District, and let me pull up some stuff here. Let me see here. Barbers Hill School District, yes, it is a public school district, which means that the state of Texas received federal funds for the their educational system, for their public educational system, and then they disperse it to the various areas and school districts so they can have their budgets. And Barbers Hill Independent School District are one of these public school districts. And so this is going to, just follow me real quick, this is going to kind of bring up some interesting dialogue, because again, the tricky part here is the race component. And I'll just share just from some personal experience, having long hair as a male, and not even just as a black male, white man, Latino man, different men with long hair, there's a when you start to get out into the world, particularly when you talk corporate world and different things of that nature, there's like this ideal person that you see typically, right? Normally, low haircut, bald head. And I used to always have a low haircut and love when I had my waves and different stuff like that. So we're not here to debate should you have long hair or short hair. That's your personal preference, at the end of the day. My personal thing is, hey, if you have hair, especially if you have long hair, make sure it's neat, make sure it's clean, especially if you are in professional environments or workspaces, educational spaces. When you're going out, make sure you look good, but at the end of the day, as a black man, of course, our hair is different. And as black people, just because you're black, that don't mean that all of our hairstyles are the same. Genetically, we all have different, from a hereditary standpoint, we all have, different hair texture as African descendants. But at the end of the day, a lot of times, a lot of us have very coarse hair, and it grows in a different way. And locks are a unique style for us African people, because the way that loose hair can actually form into a strong lock, and the lock is very strong, should be very strong anyway, and over time can just continue to grow and grow, is an amazing, unique thing, and it is a part of our culture as African Americans. But you have this school district that has their set of rules. And listen, businesses, school districts, all types of establishments and institutions have a set of rules and policies and standards. And so, to be fair, I read through Barbers Hill Independent School Districts. I read through their actual policy handbook, and I'll just touch on a few things real quick. Then I'm going to hop to the federal law. So hair must be clean and well groomed. Geometric or unusual patterns like mohawks and it must be shaved or cut. Geometric or unusual patterns, including mohawks, shaved or cut in the hair, are not permitted. So you can't have mohawks in different designs. Unusual hair color or color variation in hair, scarlet purple, blue, green, orange will not be permitted. So if you like, I know some of the different women out there have wigs or weaves in different colors, especially African American women. They do a lot of different color designs in their hair. But also too, a lot of white women, have dyes and different things they use in their hair. Unusual hair color variation. So if it's not blonde or black, the normal, it can't be purple, blue, green, or orange. They don't allow that. Ribbons or other hair accessories, so any bows and different things you have, may not distract the learning environment and should not distract from the learning environment and be appropriate to the hairstyle. So you can wear them, but they can't be distractive to the learning environment. Male students hair will not extend at any time below the eyebrows or below the earlobes. Male students' hair must not extend below the top of the t-shirt collar or be gathered or worn in a style that would allow the hair to extend below the top of a t-shirt collar, below the eyebrows, or below the earlobes when let down. So this is the part here where Darryl George is being impacted. But what I found interesting as I started to go through, because I just wanted to look at other things, like tattoos must be covered up. So this is a pretty, formal school district, and they and a lot of school districts have to take certain measures. I know with like clothing, for instance, like this school district in particular, students can't wear pajamas and stuff like that, which I agree with. I agree with. You should be coming to school prepared to learn. But I noticed that they had, like, for instance, facial hairs. So students must be clean shaven at all times. Beards, goatees, and mustaches are not allowed. So if once you, male hitting puberty, you're 14, 15, some early like that, or some 16, 17, once you get up there, like junior, senior, sophomore in high school, you start to get some hair going on your face. They want you clean shaven here in Barbers Hill Independent School District. Again, this is a public school district that receives federal funds for their educational budget. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, why do I keep talking about the federal fund thing? Well, let me go here to, let's go to the S.888, which was introduced in the Senate of the United States. And it was the sponsor of this bill was Senator Cory Booker. And I remember Cory Booker was, when I used to stay in Newark, New Jersey, he was the mayor at that time of that city. And he is now a representative here from the state of New Jersey of Congress. And let me see here. All right, so Bill S.888, and I'm not going to read this whole thing. I made sure screenshot here just in the video. But so the point of this bill is, okay, I'm going to read a few parts of it, and I'm going to get to the meat of it for us. All right, so throughout the United States history, society has used hair texture and hairstyle to classify individuals on a basis of race. Like one's skin color, one's hair has served as a basis of race and national origin discrimination. Let me see here. For example, routinely, people of African descent are deprived of educational and employment opportunities because they are adorned with natural or protective hairstyles in which hair is tightly coiled, tightly curled, or worn in locks, cornrows, twists, braids, Bantu knots, or afros. Okay, so this is in the bill presented to the Senate of the United States. This is Bill S.888. All right, so basically this bill is set up. It is titled as the Crown Act bill, and it is. All right, so this bill is cited as creating a respectful and open world for natural hair Act of 2021, or the Crown Act of 2021. So that's the title of this bill. So this bill is basically letting you know, like, okay, outside of race, there are other ways that institutions, public institutions, people of color can be discriminated against, and one of those ways is the hair. And so this bill is saying, hey, we have to enforce some things, put some things in place legally to prevent people of color from being discriminated against because of their hair. And it's true because, again, and let's pick the corporate world, and I've worked in the corporate world. There is a stigma and there is a look, and I am one to say that I gotta be fair. I am one to say that if you are entering a certain industry or a certain industry from a work standpoint, the industry has a certain policies and procedures and certain looks and certain ways that an employee should conduct themselves, obviously, but then also too from presentational standpoint. present themselves. However, hair, I think is a touchy topic, because if you have long hair, you should not, be discriminated against. Now, of course, if you are, let's say, if you are in this corporate setting and you're in a 500, a Fortune 500, company you're working for, and you're on this, executive team, and you're going out doing business meetings and deals. Like, if you have long hair, you definitely, like me, normally when I'm doing various business, when I'm handling various business matters, I'll pull my hair back and tie it back. Number one, for me, like having my hair loose, having it like in your eyes and stuff, it kind of can be distracting and stuff. So that's number one. And number two, just having it back, I feel like it's just more neat and presentable when I'm in my formal clothing, like in my suit and stuff. I just like that. For me, I like that look better. I'll have my hair down sometimes in certain settings, but most of the time I'll tie it back. I just like that. I really would have it up like this, because for me, I know that I'm going into a certain setting, and that's just the way I feel comfortable presenting myself. Not saying that if I wanted to come like this, should I be discriminated against? I shouldn't, but I do have to understand that in certain settings, when you're around certain people, you have to know how to adapt. And that's the truth. You just can't come in and say, hey, I want to just be this way because this is me. It's like, okay, yes, that's you and that's fair, but you are entering another space that does have certain criteria. Now, fast forward here, though, is that what's interesting is that, okay, we have the Federal Crown Act, which is a law that was put in place. And in this section, an interesting section here, because remember, Barbers Hill Independent School District is a public school district. It's not private. If you're private and you're not receiving federal funds to operate your school, you can have any policy you want to, because it's your private institution. But when you are a public institution receiving federal funding, then you can't discriminate based off of the laws. Law is critical. Law is key. It's one thing if there was no law, then there's no premise on where George could stand. But there is law. And so there is a law, a bill that was passed called the Crown Act of 2021 that prohibits discrimination from federally assisted programs to discriminate against people of color because of their hairstyle and hair length, and locks are one of those. So let me bring up this real quick. Okay, so, and I'm just gonna read a quick snippet from, this is from the bill. The federal government should acknowledge that individuals who have hair texture or wear a hairstyle that is historically and contemporarily associated with African Americans or persons of African descent systematically suffer harmful discrimination in schools, workplaces, and other contexts based upon long-standing race and national origin stereotypes and bases. So the Congress is asking the federal government to understand that this happens. So we'll move down. No individual in the United States shall be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance based on the individual's hair texture or hairstyle. If that hair texture or that hairstyle is commonly associated with a particular race or national origin, including a hairstyle in which hair is tightly coiled, tightly curled, locks, cornrows, twists, braids, bantu knots, and afros. So basically, the bill is just letting you know that, letting the federal government know people of color are being discriminated against, and there's various ways they can be discriminated against outside the color of their skin. The hair is one. These are natural. This natural hair grows in different types of ways. There's different types of styles because of the uniqueness of its texture that these individuals will have their hair in. And so we're asking the federal government to prohibit any discrimination based on these hairstyles, and anyone that's receiving any federal assistance And there's more to this, but of course, like housing programs, there's so many different elements to this bill. But the federally assistant activities or programs, i.e. any schools that are receiving federal funding or anything that's any institution or organization that's receiving federal funding cannot discriminate against people of color for their hair length. Now, so that's a federal law that's being applied to a school district that's receiving federal funding. So now the interesting thing here about this is that we have to say that now Judge Brown, which was the federal judge that was overseeing this case, what he did is that he said, okay, what he did, he denied some of George's requests, and he asked the judge to put a temporary restraining order on the school district so they can allow him to, continue to go to school while this case is pending. But the judge kind of said, no, we're not going to do that. So he threw out the discrimination against his race. He dismissed the claims of racial discrimination, which is interesting because the actual federal law, the Crown Act, specifically speaks about the race component. What he did not dismiss, though, was the gender claim, which I found very interesting. So the judge gets the case from George and his lawyers saying, hey, he's been discriminated against. He's a black male, so that's the gender part. He has locks in his hair, and he's been discriminated against by this federally assisted school district because of his hair length. The judge said, well, I'm gonna dismiss the racial part, but I won't dismiss the gender part. And that's interesting. Very interesting. Now, the judge's basis in the articles I've gathered did not really deep dive the judge's reasoning behind it, but based off of the school district's policy, and I'm sure this is probably one of the things the judge is looking at, is that the school district in their policy, to be fair, is not saying if you are African American, you can't wear your hair here. They're telling everybody, any color, white, black, Latino. However, this is the interesting component, y'all. This is the interesting component here about the school district. Barbers Hill Independent School District is a public school district in Mount Bellevue, Texas. Now, the school district, and I want to get here to bring up an interesting fact about this school district. Let's see here. All right. This school district, this public school district, I want to bring up demographics real quick. Then we're going to tie the knot and we'll wrap this up. The district's demographics are 63.3% white students, 27.9% Latino or Hispanic students, 3.7% Black students, 1.4% Asian or Asian Pacific, and 0.3% American Indian. Okay, that's the racial component. And then you have 3.3% two or more race students, so mixed students. So basically, you have, let's say, 4% of the students in this entire school district. 4%. This school district has how many schools? This school district has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This school district has elementary, intermediate schools, has elementary, intermediate schools, middle school, and 1 high school. So it has elementary school south, elementary school north, intermediate school south, intermediate school north, middle school south, middle school north, and then the high school. So only 4% of the student population is African American. So one could say, and again, I want to be fair here because the school district's policy does not say if you are African American, your hair can't be like this. It's telling every male. So I want to be fair in saying that. However, when you do put a policy like that in place, and you do have this small percentage of your demographic that is African American, on average, on more of, let's say on average, you normally would see African American males with long hairstyles, like locks, like I have here, or cornrows, or different things, or afros, or the short like box that has the locks twisted at the tip. You would see that more common among African American males. Well, this is a male thing. African American males, you would see these longer hairstyles more common under African American males than you would see amongst white males or Latino males or the other, or Asian males. You would see more of them with shorter hairstyles versus the African American males who would typically have locks, cornrows. Even as kids, I have a baby picture, I had a fro out here. I mean, like, our hair is just always been that way. And so again, that doesn't mean that you don't have African American males with low cuts. You have plenty of them. What I'm saying is on a normal basis, especially when you start talking like the elementary, middle school, high school, like our hairstyles, and that doesn't mean that they're not white men or white young men that are in school with long hair. There are plenty of them. But what I'm saying is you would see longer hairstyles and different types of styles, like cornrows, locks, and twisting, boxes and fros and different types. That's more common. That variation of hairstyles are more common among African American males than they are any other race, and that's a fact. So if a school district that already has a low percentage of African Americans that attend in the school district, but they have this policy that's kind of already telling you that, hey, you can't have your hair, this low, it's kind of it's basically saying, look, these are our standards. Most of our demographic don't even have long hair. So if you come into this school district, I don't care what color you are, but if you are black, definitely you can't be wearing those hairstyles that you normally will wear. So I just found that very interesting, looking at the demographics of their school district and then looking at their policies. I'm like, because in my eyes, if on average, based on your demographic, most of your students, most of your average students in that demographic that in the higher demographics that you have, most of those male students are going to have short hair anyway. So why was this policy implemented, or when did this policy get amended, or has it always been in the policy guidebook? And I would like to learn when they actually added that particular rule. Another thing I found interesting was the coloring of the hair. And again, you do have, students, male and female, who would color their hair, put different dyes in their hair. But I found that that was interesting. And then I also found, just from the male standpoint, and this is, don't matter what color you are, like, I found it very interesting that they want all students to be clean shaven. This sounds like this school district is a private school, and maybe or is a private school district. It sounds like that, but they're a public school district. So if they're a public school district, then they're receiving federal funding assistance, and if they are, then they should be held accountable to the federal laws that discriminate against certain hairstyles for African Americans and certain people's rights too. So of course, this topic is about Darryl George and his hairstyle, but maybe there should be even much more of a deep dive into these policies that this particular school district has in place that may be um, that may be offending various genders, various demographics. So I think the male component here of goatees and mustache, like you can't have a goatee and a mustache. That's normally when it starts to come in. Junior, senior year, you have a little something. May not be full, but you have a little something. And then depending on your genes and stuff, you got some folks, some young man, 15 years old, they're already getting a whole full face of hair because they can't control that. So, some of these policies that I'm seeing, in my opinion, put race aside, is actually, could be a little bit far out there, in my opinion. However, there are some policies in here that I do respect, like the pajama thing. I just think that, it's appropriate to come to school ready to learn. Like there's certain things in here that I do respect that they're doing, but at any rate, that's my my take. That's my opinion right now. Again, Darryl George, he's going to another school district so he can continue on his education and finish out his senior year. The judge threw out the racial discrimination component of his case. However, he did keep the gender component of his case, with him being a male. So that's an interesting play that I'll continue to monitor and follow. But I would love to know your thoughts on this. Men with long hair, in specific African American men with long hair. Do you feel that this case here, this situation with Darryl George, do you feel that it's fair? Do you feel that the school district is right to tell males with long hair that they can't be below their earlobes? This public school district that's receiving federal funds to tell a male that they can't have their hair. Matter of fact, this public school district that's receiving federal funds to tell an African American male that he can't have his locks below the earlobes when there's a federal law, the Crown Act of 2021, that was passed to prohibit discrimination against African Americans or those of African descent because of the texture and the natural origins of their hair and the natural hairstyles, because their hair coils and it forms in different ways versus other races. Should we be discriminated against? Because we know that the texture of, the European texture of hair runs a little more consistent with the Asian texture of hair. Although the texture is a little different, but it still runs a little more consistent with the Asian texture of hair versus the African texture of hair. The African texture of hair is a very unique texture. So let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about Darryl George's case? Do you think that this young man was unfairly discriminated against? Do you feel that with the federal Crown Act being in place and Barbers Independent School District being a public school district receiving federal funds, do you think that they were right to discriminate? Let me know your thoughts. Add your comments, put your comments in there. Whether right or wrong, this is open for everybody to talk about and to comment. So it's not, one thing we have to go by is the facts. And the fact is that there is a law, the Crown Act. There is a law in place, and I'll put the link and stuff in the description as well too, so you can take some time to read it. But there is a law in place, so that's a fact, that says that you can't discriminate against those of African descent because of their hairstyle, their natural hair. And his hair is natural hair. And the fact is, you do have a public school district that has a rule preventing that. So we have to keep the facts, but again, everyone's open to their opinion. So I would love to get your thoughts. Again, this program is this episode is being sponsored by One Change at a Time. Please visit our website, learn more how we help the youth and seniors come together to overcome health disparities. And we look forward to your support. We thank you all. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. We're going to have a lot more great topics, and I got a lot more cool things coming up, particularly some good stuff, some good topics, in regards to President Trump. So I think that's going to play a huge impact in how we move forward as a nation, obviously in the next 4 years, and on an international scale. So we'll be touching into those things. We'll also be touching on a lot more community things that are happening, social things that are happening, and we're going to have a little fun with this as well too as we continue to build this show. So thank you all for tuning in. I am Leonard Abbott. I'm your host of Shift the Culture, and we are a new voice, new shift, new culture, and we're gone. All right, y'all.